Can't get him over the top. And I try to tell people that Jalen Brunson is the most important person in that organization. And he gives him a full endorsement. And as long as he does that, Tom Thibodeau's going nowhere. And you heard Jalen Brunson's comments and how he feels about it. So clearly, Tom Thibodeau's going nowhere, nor do I think he should.
Yeah, let me just do it very quickly, because I wrote it. The last 25 years, the Knicks have sucked. Yeah. They have sucked very much. There has been an unbelievable amount of terribleness of the Knicks. And now, all of a sudden, they make this unexpected run. They beat the defending champs. They run up against a very good and underrated opponent. By the way, since January 1st, the two best teams in the NBA by record are OKC and Indiana, the two teams that make it to the finals. And all of a sudden, Knicks fans want to blame Jalen Brunson and Tom Thibodeau, who have as much to do with them being where they are as any two people alive. It drives me insane. I said it on last week, and I'll say it again. This is why we can't have nice things. Tom Thibodeau has been the best coach the Knicks have had in a very long time. He isn't perfect because he's a human being and no one is perfect, but that's my opinion. Jay Will, what do you think?
I feel like Knicks fans in politics, it's all heat, no nuances. And frankly, when I look at Tom Thibodeau, I think, look, there's some questions about Tom Thibodeau and his playing methodology, but back-to-back 50-win seasons, getting them to the Eastern Conference Finals, Jalen Brunson giving him his endorsement. Like, I think he's going to be the head coach next year. I just wonder what this ceiling is with this team. I don't think that's more of a Tom Thibodeau situation. I think that's more of a Leon Rose roster construction situation because of some of the hindrance of this team. If it's Anunoby's rebounding, if it's Josh Hart's shooting, if it's McBride's playmaking, if it's Mitchell Robinson's endurance, I think there's some more retooling around the roster construction more so than Tom Thibodeau.
Completely agree, and we'll dive into that in just a second, but let's just put a final ribbon on this, because you're around this team literally every day. Monica does the radio for them. Like, what sense do you have of the relationship, of the coaching, of all that sort of sense, the sense you get around Tom Thibodeau?
So I've spent the day sort of thinking about how you button up the season, to your point, Greeny. I remember sitting at this table and our good friend Bobby Marks, who said this might be the best starting five in the Eastern Conference when it came together with Karl Anthony Towns, right? I have been around the city and had conversations with fans, and it was like, well, what do you think about Boston? If it goes 6, I'll be proud, as in 6 and an escape, right? And so you get past Boston, the starting five doesn't emerge as the signature defense, right? That was your signature last year, but it's a high-powered offense, the highest you've seen in, I want to say, at least 5 seasons for sure. And you run up on a Pacers team who I think is underrated. Is there room for everyone to be evaluated? Yes. Does that include Tom Thibodeau in my mind? Yes, because did you see glimpses in the Pacers series of some of the conversations around his use of depth? Yes, right? And so, but I don't think that this season to me is at all a failure. I don't think Tom Thibodeau should be removed, but I do think that there are very glaring moments that everyone, which is what you do in sports, can point to in terms of evaluating and figuring out how you move forward. I thought Jay said it really well, and to me, I may be in the minority on this, the defense wasn't the issue for me in the series. The offense crashed. The defense has not been particularly stellar all season. That wasn't new.
So that brings us then to where we do go. Very few teams make it to the NBA's Final Four and fire their coach. It's not unprecedented, but it is a rarity, and even having the conversation, I think, is insane. So let's turn our attention to the piece of this that does make sense. The roster, the players. We all know what name is going to come up. We're going to have the NBA Finals for the next 2.5 weeks, and then we're going to have the week of the draft. And the week of the draft, the two most prominent names spoken are going to be the rookie from Duke, whose name just jumped out of my head, Cooper Flag, inexplicably, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yeah. That's going to be the other name. Jay, should the Knicks be moving heaven and earth to find a way to bring Giannis to put them over the top?
I mean, if you can find it, look, I've said this before. I think what puts Jalen Brunson in the best position long term is to be 1A when you need him to be 1A the most at the end of games. Alan Hahn has referred to him as the Mariano Rivera. Right? Mariano Rivera didn't pitch for 7 innings. So all I'm going to say is throughout the longevity for Brunson's career, due to the fact that he absorbed so much physicality, I don't need him to carry the load every single night during the course of an 82 regular game season schedule and into the playoffs. I need him to remain fresh, and that's going to help the longevity of his career. A guy like Giannis can carry that load, and actually I think their games are comparable together. They work together. Now, look, you're going to have to give up a lot of pieces and assets assets in order to get that. But I think in the best long-term interest of Jalen Brunson, if you want to keep him around, Giannis is the player that I think matches that and helps sustain a longer career for Brunson.
Alan, do you think this is a conversation that is going to be hot around these parts?
Oh, it'll be scorching hot. This is my big fat Greek summer in New York when it comes to Giannis Antetokounmpo. I mean, that's what it's just going to be. Whether or not the Knicks have the pieces to do it is, of course, the debate that we're going to have now on and on. And if you listen to Bobby Marks, who's very smart, he'll tell you they really don't. But it doesn't mean that if Giannis is watching the Knicks in this playoff run, and he watched them in that series against the Pacers, and he wants a market like New York, he wants a big market, and he wants a shot at another ring where it'll resonate big time. He's got to be saying to himself, I can help that team. And if that's the case and he believes it enough, he is the guy that's got to drive the bus when it comes to coming to New York. It is not something the Knicks can do where they're going to outbid other teams. If he leaves it open to where I'll play anywhere, the Knicks probably don't have a shot. But if he's got a say in this, then they might have a shot. And if you're the Knicks, you have to listen, you have to think about it. But continuity is an important thing there, Monica. They haven't had much of it. They tore up the roster last summer. Can you keep doing it over and over again?
And I'm glad you brought up the continuity piece, Han, because to me, this is why this year is a success for the Knicks. Because how often do we see you team up superstars, if you will, all NBA guys, if you will, and you did that with Karl-Anthony Towns and Jalen Brunson, and it worked in year one. That, to me, is unheard of and should be an asterisk in this conversation. But I'm going to quote exactly what you said and what Jay said. Jay said, give up a lot of pieces and assets. You said, whether or not the Knicks have the pieces to push it all together. The thing about it is, and I've asked this question about Giannis in terms of other destinations, is what is your timeline? Because if they do this summer, I have a hard time believing that it's a formula that's going to equal championship in the next year, because you're going to have to fill in the rest of that roster.
Right.
Now, we all have sat here, Greeny, and put up Giannis' stats year by year, and somehow it seems to be sleeping under the radar that he's still in the top 5 in terms of MVP conversation. So when you look at Giannis' game and you look at Jalen Brunson's IQ, yeah, basketball, it totally makes sense. But where do you place continuity? Where do you place what it does in terms of your franchise, in terms of your treasure?
The hardest part. That's why he has to drive it.
And by the way, there was just a question on the screen that I know we had planned to get to today. Was this season a failure for the Knicks? Again, there are some things I just laugh at. Yeah. If someone had said before the season began the Knicks are going to make it to Game 6 of the Eastern Conference Finals, any realistic fan would have done a little dance. Now, if you had
But you didn't know who would be against.
No, I understand that.
It's how it ended, Greeny, which is why it's bittersweet.
But
the
those
best season in 25 years, but the way it ended is bittersweet.
I know, but if the Indiana Pacers played in Boston, or if they played in somewhere else besides where they play, these people would have had a completely different perspective. A team is just so much better than anybody wants to give them credit for being. The Knicks ran into a better team that was a bad matchup, and they were a bounce of the ball here or there away from possibly finding a way to win. We will continue in a moment. Bart, we'll have to drag him away from his breakfast as we continue, because he needs to talk about this. There have been few better defenders ever than Dion, but today you're going to